You're listening to eBizRadio, the place to go if you want to know about the world of business. For daily podcast and article uploads, go to eBizRadio.com or follow us on Twitter at eBizRadio Global. My name is Nick Snow, and joining me for an edition of eBiz Wires is Graham Parker, of course, from Britehouse. Graham, thank you very much for joining me. It's an absolute pleasure to be talking to you. We're going to be talking about Britehouse, obviously, in the cloud computing business. I think let's start, of course, at the top, and let's chat a little bit about you, how you found yourself at Britehouse, a little bit of your education, and how you found yourself here as the MD.
Okay, well, by training, I'm actually an accountant. I studied at UCT, and then did my articles at Deloitte, and wanted to get out of accounting as quickly as possible, so went over to the UK to do a bit of temping and traveling, etc., and ended up doing some corporate finance work for a few years in the UK, and then beginning of 2000 decided to settle down, get married, have kids, and came back to South Africa, where I joined Dimension Data, again, in the corporate finance world, doing mergers and acquisitions.
Absolutely wonderful. So now, of course, Dimension Data and Britehouse, of course, strategic partners. And then, of course, now your particular position is MD of Brithouse's Microsoft Specialist Division 315. Your aim, obviously, to redefine the company's Microsoft strategy in relation to the vendor's own roadmap, as well as this whole ever-increasing customer requirements for a digital approach. Now, we do know that everything is going digital. So tell us a little bit more about Britehouse as a company, what it does, and how you guys fit into the whole idea of what a business can achieve.
Okay, well, firstly, we've reorganized Britehouse recently and pulled a whole lot of businesses together into an area or a division called Britehouse Digital. That includes 315, which is the application development arm. So 315 no longer exists as a company name.
Right.
It's now known as Britehouse Digital, which, as you rightly point out, I'm managing director of. And really, the vision was to bring together the companies that were in Britehouse that naturally align with one another in helping our customers digitize their processes and the way that they interact with their customers. And that's really our aim, to help our customers digitize themselves.
So what are some of the specific tasks that would require digitization?
Oh, well, firstly, it's around interacting with your clients in a far better digital, real-time, online fashion than traditional channels.
Yes.
And so that's almost the first place. But in order to give your customer not only a nice portal with which to go through and interact with your company, you need to give them a good experience when they're buying those goods and services that you're offering them.
Yes.
And therefore, your back end needs to be properly digitized so that it's a seamless process when your customer interacts with you and purchases those products and services. So it's not only about the front end, although that's often where it starts, but it's as much about the back end, the ERP, the underlying systems that your company runs on.
So what we're looking at is not only user experience for your actual client in terms of engaging with your company on a much more comfortable level, but an actual user experience for your employees to be able to do the best possible work for your clients.
Absolutely. It's as much, exactly. It's empowering your employees, who, by the way, now expect to be empowered. The employee of old of doing an 8-to-5 job and not being able to access anything outside of the business's network is long gone, and employees expect to be empowered as much as customers do. In fact, obviously, often they're the same people, and so one needs to interact with them in exactly the same way and empower them, and therefore make them productive so that you can have satisfied customers.
So I imagine it goes a little bit deeper than that, because when you look at the actual processes involved, digitization can obviously take on a number of different forms. So obviously the most, I think, plain for most people to see is the website. Does it look good? Can I buy the products online? Can I interact with the company online. But then, of course, on the back end, I think, is where the focus has always been neglected. So is this a focus of yours to almost digitize and integrate things like work schedules, email schedules, or is it only really based on the systems needed to get the product or service out to the consumer?
No, we we certainly help on the front end. We've got a strong digital marketing, what we call digital marketing capability, whereby we help build the website. We look at the user experience, the user interface, and we make sure that that is up to date, modern, and what one would expect from a Zhuzh new age website. And there are a lot of companies that do that. A lot of the digital marketing agencies do that. But where we differentiate ourselves is that we've come from the technology side. So we're the second biggest SAP implementer in South Africa. We have one of the bigger, predominantly .NET or Microsoft-based application development capabilities of about 200 people in the country. And so we integrate and can build and can customize the back-end systems so that the customer gets a real cool experience when they interact with your company. And a lot of the front-end web developers or digital marketing agencies obviously don't have that deep technical expertise. They're very good at the front end and putting lipstick on the web, but they obviously don't have the deep technical expertise to integrate with ERPs and CRM systems, etc.
So now, of course, what are some of the other products that you and services that you issue? Because I was looking through your website, which is beautifully presented, by the way, nice and simple, of course, leading by example. And it says here that you do a lot of cloud-based, but also on-premise solutions. Yeah,
so I mean, we offer a variety of services. I've mentioned the digital marketing, analytics. We do SAP. We do CRM, and the list goes on. But the way that we deploy those is dependent on customer needs. So on a project basis, whereby we build the solution and it can then sit on a customer's premise, or we can build it and host it ourselves and manage it ourselves, or a customer often outsources a lot of their processes and a lot of their application development to us in its entirety, and we run the whole application development team.
Brilliant.
Plus the technology that we built. As I say, we often host that and run it on behalf of the customer.
So I imagine you're not at liberty to discuss particular client details, but is there perhaps a case study that you could tell us about, a little bit about the process of how you went in, how you assessed the needs, and how you came up with a solution?
Well, I think what I can say is that recently, certainly in the last year, the conversation with our customer has changed dramatically, not necessarily, so a little bit about the what. And when I say the what, people are far more interested in the analytics and what can be done with the data and the real-time nature that's required to analyze that data from all the online interactions that are now happening. And that's obviously important, but where the conversation has also moved to very, very quickly is the acceptance by your general customer that cloud computing is here and that it's affordable and that it's efficient and that it's effective and that more importantly, it is acceptable and safe. And so every time we now engage with a customer, there is always a cloud option on the table. And it's very easy for us to do because people like Microsoft and Dimension Data have great cloud offerings which applications can easily and safely sit on.
So now, are there not enough people engaging with digital? Is it a bit of a not so keen on it, or do they not understand it? Or are there a lot of people who are avoiding this because of the barriers to entry that maybe they just don't know how to adopt it?
Yeah, so look, there's definitely an education process that is happening and in certain customers needs to happen. We have a digital consulting business that does exactly that. It helps a customer understand what their digital roadmap should be and helps them paint that digital roadmap at a strategic level, i.e. mapping that digital roadmap to that customer's business strategy. And then hopefully we hope to get some of the build application development work that falls out of that. But where a customer is willing to engage with us on that basis, then obviously the battle's half won. They realize that there's an issue, and so they go down the road. The issue, I think there are many customers out there who probably won't be around in a few years if they don't do that, because they will be disintermediated by new age companies who are building, the Uber equivalent of that industry.
Yes. As we know, Uber kind of took over rapidly and has almost destroyed the entire taxi industry just because they offered the right thing at the right time. So, the type of solutions that you folks at Britehouse come up with, are you looking to kind of jump in there at the right time, or is it an ongoing process?
No, it's an ongoing process. So what we don't pretend to be, we're not industry experts at all. So our clients need to understand what their industry is and come up with a strategy to have longevity in their industry. However, where we can help them is help them understand what needs to happen in order to digitize their processes so that they are still around in 5 to 10 years' time. And as I say, we are the digital experts. We're not their industry experts.
So it's really up to the client to come to you and say, we need to digitize, we need to change ourselves, we need to survive, and then you guys come in and put it in place. So you're really saying it's not your responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's not your responsibility. You're not a business rescue service. You're a business continuity service. It's far more than continuity. It's around innovation, it's around improvement and all the rest of it. But at times, it probably is just business continuity. If they don't do it, they'll wither and die within a few years. Absolutely. So, specifically in South Africa, with the various technological challenges that we do face, and now we've got power cuts on top of it, the ability to adopt this type of digitization, is it still worth it to do? Or are we sitting at a kind of a point in our economy where we might need to focus on other things if we're going to survive?
I actually think the digitization trend and the benefits that digitization gives a company is probably far more relevant given the challenges that South Africa faces. If one thinks about, just take power cuts, if you think about owning your own data center and having to keep that up and going and buying the generators to keep that up and going, because you certainly can't afford for that to go down, versus outsourcing that to, as I say, a dimension data cloud platform or a Microsoft Azure platform, both of which guarantee you 99.99% availability and have obviously already invested in significant power backup and then again second backup lines. Just that basic example shows that new world of cloud and digital is, as you said, almost business continuity in that context.
Absolutely. So we're really looking at, if you really want to succeed, if you really want to take your business to the next level, and if you want to survive in the new age, because I think we're moving very swiftly out of the information age into the digital age. That's always been my opinion, is that the information age has ended quite quickly, and we are moving towards this digital age where if you're not online and you're not utilizing it properly, you're pretty much certain to fail.
Absolutely. So, I've spent a lot of time over the last couple of years with Gartner and the likes and those industry analysts. And their consistent view is that the first age of technology, I guess when IBM were building the mainframes, took, 10 to 15 to 20 years. And that was about Compute 101. How do you crunch a whole lot of data in a much more efficient and effective format? Then it was around the services around that. And that was, I guess, where people like SAP came to the fore. And they put proper process and automation in place to automate business processes. And that was another 10 to 20 years, and is still here. Digital has transformed business, though, in 2 to 3 years. And so the rate of change in this third, and this is what Gartner and the likes of Gartner call it, this is the third age of technology, and they're calling it digital. But the rate of change with digital is phenomenal, which is why you're getting that wholesale disruption of industries like the cigarette industry, like the taxi industry.
So at the end of the day, it's on the onus of once again, the business provider to look what's going on around them and realize that it's definitely the right direction to go. So finally, Graham, if people want to get in touch with you at Britehouse, if they're looking to take their businesses to the next level, if they're looking to help them leap forward in terms of economic power, how do they get in touch with you guys?
Please drop me an email. It's probably easiest. It's Graham, graham.parker@britehouse.co.za, or go onto the website, and there are places on the website to get hold of us.
Absolutely wonderful. And that's Britehouse, Britehouse, not with your GH.
Good point.
Nice to separate yourselves from the pack there. Yes, so if there's anybody out there, eBiz listeners, if you're keen to take your digitization to that next level, you know who to talk to. And that brings us to the end of this edition of eBiz Wise. Graham, thank you once again for taking the time to chat to me on eBiz Radio.
Pleasure, and thank you, Nick.